The international break is almost over, so it's nearly time for us to see Liverpool play again, but it's not going to be an easy one for them. First up, a 12:30 game away from home, directly following the international break. We know that that's a schedule that Jurgen Klopp is not a huge fan of, so he's sure to take that into account when he makes his selection for this one, alongside the injury problems that Liverpool have got at the moment. So not an easy team for the manager to pick, you have to say. Now I'm going to go through and pick my team for this one, my starting 11, based on what we know in terms of the team news at the moment. And please do let me know yours in the comments as well, and let me know whether you think my team selection is any good or not. I'm no Premier League manager, but I'm going to give it my best shot based on the information that we have available at the moment. Now, obviously the obvious place to start is in goal, and I'm going to go with Alisson Becker in that position. Now, that's not an easy pick for the manager, I'd say, because we know with the South American players, they've got a lot of travel over these international breaks, and it is difficult for them sometimes coming back in terms of feeling that on the body and whether they're ready mentally as well to kick straight back into Premier League football. But the manager has tended to make an exception around Alisson Becker. Even though he's been off on his travels, he's tended to come straight back into the team, seen in a slightly different way to the outfield players, which makes sense in terms of, you know, the physical toll on the body is not quite there in terms of running around and doing all that. So I think that it's an easier selection to go with Alisson Becker rather than maybe going with a Quaveen Kelleher coming in. And I think that's been made slightly easier as well for the manager this time around, because during the international break, the two games that Brazil had, Manchester City's Ederson was actually favoured over Alisson, so he hasn't played games over those last two over the international break, so he should be fit and ready and fully available to come straight back into the starting 11 for this one. So I would expect Alisson to start in goal, and certainly would be my pick. He would actually, by the way, be my pick for Brazil. Bit of a funny one there, I have to say. I think Alisson is the best goalkeeper in the world, but no such decisions in terms of whether he's the first choice at Liverpool. We know he should be coming straight back into that starting 11. Now, moving into the defence, at right back, the question mark was over Trent Alexander-Arnold. Obviously, he suffered that hamstring injury just before the international break, so that kept him out of international duty. There was a bit of a sly suggestion that maybe that was one of those injuries that players do tend to pick up around the international time, just a 2-weeker to keep them out. Now, we know it wasn't a particularly severe hamstring injury, and there was some hope that he might be ready for this game after the international break, but we've seen clips now from training where it doesn't look like Trent Alexander-Arnold is fully involved in that. And I think with a hamstring injury, it's not one where you would look at it and maybe take a risk on the player's fitness. It's so easy to get a recurrence of that injury. So I think for this one, we're going to maybe see Joe Gomez move out to right back. He is seemingly the first choice backup in that position going into the season, particularly as Calvin Ramsey is out on loan, and we know that Conor Bradley is carrying a back injury at the moment. So it seems like a little bit of a no-brainer to move Joe Gomez out to right back. So obviously that creates then a vacancy at centre-half. He was playing there in the last game against Aston Villa and did really well, but Joe Gomez moving out to right-back means that we need to find a centre-half somewhere. Virgil van Dijk is still suspended, so we can't bring him back in, unfortunately. But the good news is that it looks like Ibrahima Konate is fully involved in training now with his teammates, so that should make him available to come straight back in and fulfil that position at centre-half. A big boost for Liverpool, you have to say, because he is, alongside Van Dijk, one of the two first choices in that position. And to go alongside him, you have to say that Joel Matip will now keep his place. He would maybe have been the candidate to drop out and leave Gomez in at centre-half had Konate come straight back into the starting 11, but it looks like Joel Matip will keep his place alongside Konate, and as I said, Joe Gomez moving out to right-back. Now, Andy Robertson at left-back is the usual choice there. And I would say there would be maybe some potential for rotation there, just given the fact that he played 2 games over the international break compared to Kostas Tsimikas' 1 game that he played for Greece. But I would say for this one, because there's a bit of chopping and changing going on in the back four already, with Joe Gomez moving out to right back, you're bringing Konate back in with a maybe less familiar partner in Matip. I think the manager is going to go down the route of thinking we need to keep things as solid as we can. We don't want to be making changes for the sake of it. So I expect Andy Robertson maybe to start at left back as part of that back four. Now, moving into the midfield, again, some more difficult decisions around the South American travel popping up in this position. We know against Aston Villa, the holding midfielder was Alexis Mac Allister, but he has played twice for Argentina over the international break, and he did earn rave reviews for his performances, but I just think the amount of work you have to get through as a central midfielder and the fact that he's had that travel involved, maybe this is one where we see him drop out the starting 11, and maybe if he can impact it from the bench later on. So that opens up an opportunity in holding midfield for maybe Wataru Endo to come in. And I think, he's a player who's got great experience, and he was signed for the now. He's not a project player, so Liverpool really have looked at him if they thought that it was worthwhile signing now, that he should be able to start games straight away. So even though it's very early in his Liverpool career, I think Endo should be ready and should be available to be starting games like this. So I would like to see him come in and play games here. And if anyone's wondering why he wasn't maybe involved in as much travel over the international break despite representing Japan, the fact is that his 2 games that he played for Japan were actually played in Europe, so handy in terms of limiting his travel. So again, should make him available to come straight back in here. The other starters ahead of him in midfield, those 2 number 8 positions, I think Dominic Szoboszlai is possibly the first name on the team sheet for Liverpool at the moment. Yes, again, involved in internationals, but only in Europe, so not as much travel. Should be ready, and he's already such a big part of that midfield, isn't he? So I'd like to see him in the right-sided number 8 position. And then on the left-sided number 8 position, maybe a little bit of competition there with Thiago sort of edging back towards full fitness. But I think Curtis Jones was so impressive for me against Aston Villa in terms of ball retention. And he's a player the manager really, really trusts, doesn't he, to keep possession and keep things ticking over. He also really knows the press inside out as well. So again, he's fit and ready. So I see no reason to do any more tinkering with the midfield. I'd like to see Curtis Jones come back in there. Moving out into the forward line, I think there's one position that we could say is fairly nailed down already in terms of Mohamed Salah. He starts every game he's fit for, and he should be ready for this one. I think he goes straight in on that right-hand side. No real debate around that one. But there is some interesting talk around what could happen in terms of the rest of the front line. I think in the centre-forward position, Darwin Nunez, Marcelo Bielsa, who's his manager for Uruguay, said that he had to bring him off in the second game of their 2 games because he felt some sort of slight muscle problems in terms of, I think maybe some not maybe slight pull or any sort of injury like that, but maybe some cramping that suggested that he was getting towards a potential injury. So he was taken off there. So when you factor that in, plus again the travel as I keep mentioning, I think maybe this is one where you think with Darwin Nunez, let's pull him out of the team. Yes, he was impressive across the last 2 games, but I think you've got squad options there. Let's make use of them. And I think in that centre forward position, if you aren't starting Darwin Nunez, I think the obvious pick for me is Cody Gakpo. He scored 2 goals for the Netherlands during the international break, so he's banging form, and he started the season well before Nunez sort of kicked him out of that centre forward position as well. So such a reliable option, no point risking Nunez. For me, Cody Gakpo has to start in the centre forward position. Now that leaves an option just on the left hand side there. So who would you pick there? I think Luis Diaz again. We talk about the travel. I think that's going to be a factor here. You don't want to throw the South Americans in when they've been halfway across the world and played games, and particularly when you've got such brilliant options. And that for me is where Diogo Jota comes in. Yes, he's played a bit more football in the centre-forward position so far this season, but we know he's comfortable and capable out on the left, and he's a real goal-scoring threat there. He also scored 2 goals for Portugal over the international break, so he should be banging form, feeling confident and ready to come back into the starting 11. So that is my pick for this game coming up against Wolves. As I say, please do let me know in the comments what changes you would make to the team. If there's any different picks you would make in terms of your team selection, please let me know. And as always, I'm going to ask you to like and subscribe. I'm getting very, very close to 10,000 subs, you may have noticed. So please do tell your friends. I want to get over the line with that as soon as possible. And yeah, please do keep an eye out for any more videos. There'll be sure there'll be more soon.